Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Paradox Untold Stories from Athletic Directors. I'm your host, Dr. Dustin Smith, and my co host is Dr. Danielle Lapointe. And as we get into this,
You just
I'm just throwing a
got rid of
doctorate on
me
Lanness.
back quickly.
I'm just throwing a doctorate on Lanness to begin with.
That's the cheapest doctorate there ever was. Thank you.
So my co-host is Dr. Danielle Lapointe, and our guest today is Lanness Robinson. So Lanness, man, thank you for being here, and how are you today?
I'm well, and thank you for the additional credential that you gave me this morning.
Yeah, honorary doctorate. We're going to give you one today from the Paradox University. We're going to give you that. But I thank you for being here, and I also got to thank Ticket Spicket, the official ticketing partner of the NIAAA, for making this episode and every episode possible here at Paradox. And now let me kick it over to my true co-host, Dr. Danielle Lapointe. How are you doing today, Danielle?
I am good, and I'm very excited for our guest today. Lanness is actually a neighbor of mine. He is in the Tampa area, and I'm in Bradenton, so we are just a bridge away from each other. I don't even know where to start when it comes to introducing Lanness. I don't know. I think it might be easier to talk about what he hasn't done. But just a few of the credentials that just come to my mind very quickly is he's the past NIAAA president. He's on the NIAAA Professional Development Academy leadership team. He's on the FIAAA board of directors. He teaches LTC courses. He is the Tampa Bay Sports Commission board chair. And the list just continues to grow and be impressive from there. So you have done so much and contributed so much to the athletic director profession. Thank you for that. And on a personal note, the first LTC course I ever took was in Osceola County, and Lanness taught it live in person. And that is where I kind of got my introduction to the NIAAA and to the LTC courses. So I have a little bit of a personal connection. You may not remember that, Lanness, but I remember that.
I remember teaching in Osceola. I don't remember that you were in there, but I taught over there a couple times actually.
Yes. So thank you for being here. Thank you to everything you've done to our profession. I'm not sure if I missed anything you wanted to highlight, but yeah, you've just pretty much done all of it. And now you have a doctorate. So really, what haven't you done?
I mean, that's what I was missing. So I appreciate Dustin giving me that.
Hey, not just the doctor. You got it the cheapest and the quickest version possible.
Absolutely.
You're 3 minutes into this and I gave you a doctorate.
Right. I appreciate all of those kind words, but ultimately, I've just done my job and gone about it with the idea of trying to help others be better at what they do. That's really my motto. If you know anything about me, I wear a bracelet that says "Be Better" on it. When I was a board president, that was my theme. The idea of "Be Better" sign up in my office says "Be Better." It's something I believe and try to live. Obviously, that comes with some commitment and the ability and the desire to do things that others aren't willing to do. So I appreciate those kind words, like I said.
Let me ask you this. In that vein, we're just going to go ahead and get this out of there because you got to defend your honor here a little bit because you were under attack and you didn't know it. But apparently, we got to set the record straight. Is there a crystal paperweight in your office that has that phrase "Be Better" on it?
There absolutely is. And because I kind of was tipped off, there it is. I don't know if you can actually see it, but it does say "Be Better."
It does.
Because we were second place.
I was going to say, what place does it say on that?
It says, just so you know, it says Lanness Robinson, second place, be better. Brickyard Crossing Invitational. I was not my best that day. And someone's two of them, Josh Scott and Mike McGurk, I'm going to mix their names up. Josh Scott and Mike McGurk, they were better that day. I've never seen Mike McGurk hit the golf ball that well, but on that day, he absolutely caught fire right as we went into the interior portion of it's the Brickyard Crossing course where some of the holes are actually inside the Indianapolis 500 Speedway. And those holes, Mike McGurk just blew up. And Taurus, he tore us a good one. I was playing with Phil Rising. So
So that's who we need to go after next.
Bill Rising is the fourth component of that. Yes.
So here's what I want to say: you've got the crystal paperweight, but they don't have a doctorate, and you've been given that doctorate. So you get that, so you can tell them to be better.
I will definitely remind them of that. I will see both of them in September. We'll all be in Indianapolis for a meeting, so I will make sure to bring that up.
So, Lanness, what we like to do on this podcast is we've talked about your accolades. We know that you're very prominent in IAAA and very prominent in our profession. But what makes Lanness outside of being an AD? I know it's hard to flip off that switch, but what do you do for fun? What do you enjoy? What are the things that the resume is not going to tell us about who Lanness Robinson is?
Well, obviously golf is a passion of mine. Maybe I need to work on it a little bit more. I am a sports fanatic, as a lot of ADs. I have Buck season tickets. You can see in my background, I'm a proud Florida State graduate. Even though our football team is not doing all that great these past few years. I'm scuba certified. Something that my daughter wanted to do it was probably 7 or 8 years ago, something she wanted to do. And so we went and got scuba certified. And so we try to, go down in the water, get down in the bottom of the ocean as often as we can. I have 2 kids, a 20-year-old daughter and an 18-year-old son that I'm about to take off to college for the first time. He is, believe it or not, looking at me, he is a 5'10", 280-pound nose guard. And he's going off to play football at Baldwin Wallace University up in the Cleveland area. So not only is my youngest going away, he's going way away. And going to experience some cold. So, pride and joy of those 2. I have a tattoo that says their names on my arm. And be better, by the way. So just, that's who I am.
So let me ask you that you talk about being scuba certified. Obviously, Arkansas doesn't have that ocean close to it, so they don't have that. We call it noodling here, and people don't have any scuba gear. They just go down and grab fish in holes, and I'm assuming you don't do any of that.
No, sir. So actually in scuba diving, there's something called drifting, and when you drift, there's similar to a noodle. When you come up from the bottom, once you get past the safety zone, you go ahead and shoot up your it looks like a noodle, honestly, but that's where the boat knows to now come pick you up. So not quite what you were talking about, I think, in Arkansas.
Dustin likes to give me a hard time, talk about me being cultured. I'm also scuba certified, Dustin. So really, you were the odd one out on this one. We got to get you caught up.
There you go.
Well, maybe.
I mean, there's 3 doctors here, and 2 of them are scuba certified.
Drop the mic and walk out. Maybe I got to defend my honor as far as what I got to do here. I've got to be better, Lanness. I've got to be better. And that's what I'm going to do. So let's talk. I mean, obviously you're close to the water, and we talked about you being in the Tampa area. So some of our listeners may be geographically challenged. So paint on a map where Tampa is in Florida. And where you serve currently.
Okay, so if you think about Florida, it's kind of a peninsula that comes down. Tampa's on the west coast, so on the coast that is inside of the Gulf of Mexico, about midway up that peninsula. I'm actually in Hillsborough County Public Schools, which is the Tampa Bay area, and there's literally a cutout into the bay that comes right up into Tampa, and my office is about a mile from where that water comes all the way up into Tampa Bay. So that's kind of where we are. In 2025, we're going to be hosting the NIAAA National Conference. So we're looking forward to that. Sadly, we weren't able to have it here in 2020, but thankfully, the contracts were able to be renegotiated and moved to 2025. So hopefully all of those people that are watching, we'll see them here in Tampa in 2025.
Now, will there be a revenge golf match, like maybe on your home course that you have some knowledge of?
There will be revenge, and it will be long before 2025.
Okay. So let me ask this question: as you talk about being at Hillsborough County, how many schools are a part of that? How many ADs do you oversee?
Okay, so we're pretty large. We're a pretty large school district. When I say pretty large, we're the seventh largest school district in the country. School district that has about 230,000 students. We have 28 high schools and 52 middle schools that I oversee the athletics program in. So that means that I have, what's that? Is that 80 ADs that I am overseeing at the middle and high school level. Our middle school program is not a full-fledged middle school program as you might think, but it is still a program that we have to manage. Our high schools, on average, have 22 sports that they're playing. So it's about 20,000 athletes, give or take, depending on the year. So it's 2,000 coaches. It's a pretty large group.
I mean, I obviously got to be better to get to that level. I mean, I'm managing 40 coaches or 50 coaches depending on the year, and I mean, sometimes they got some headaches that they provide me, and I can't even imagine when you got 2,000 coaches, what kind of headaches that can provide for you.
Yeah, I've always said, adults are the challenging ones.
Right. Yeah, and we make our living based off decisions of 13 to 18-year-old kids, but adults are the ones that are challenging.
That's correct.
So,
true.
how long have you been in
if
Hillsborough?
we're honest, kids, I won't call them kids, young adults, they want to know what the expectations are, and they generally try to live up to those. When they become full-fledged adults, sometimes their brain gets in the way.
Now, you're not saying anybody on the NIAAA board would be one of those whose brain gets in the way, would you?
I'm no longer on the board, so I can't speak to the actual board, but I can tell you the time I was on the board. I mean, there are a couple of people that you never knew what was coming out their mouth. No, just for the record, those two guys are awesome people. Just awesome people. Josh Scott and Mike McGirt. Really appreciate time serving on the board with them. But beyond that, those are a couple of my dearest friends in this profession.
Well, you are the only person who said that on this podcast about
listen. Because despite the fact that they beat us, I still got nothing but love for them.
You got respect for them, even though they. So that's awesome. Now, Lanness, have you always been at Hillsborough, or have you coached? Have you been in the profession at other districts?
So here's one of those stories, right? So I went to go do my internship when I was at Florida State and Tallahassee at a school. It's called Godby High School. Went to go do my internship the day before school started. The teacher quit. Guess who became the teacher for the year, right? So I'm one of the few people. Not only did I get a doctorate in 3 minutes, I got my internship paid as a teacher, which is not very many people did, right? Because I was they literally put me in the position as a long-term sub for the entire year, so I taught that year. But I've been in Hillsborough ever since. I did coach JV basketball when I was at Godby High School that 1 year, and then when I transferred down this way to the Tampa area, I was at a school, Plant City High School. Was there for 6 years. I'm sorry, and ultimately became the head boys basketball coach, and I was an assistant football coach. And then for some reason, I decided I wanted to go to grad school and get my master's while I was coaching football and basketball. But I will tell you, so I got my doctorate today in 3 minutes, but I actually became the head boys basketball coach my second year at the school. Just so happened the person that was the head coach, that I was an assistant coach. I was a JV coach. Said, I'm ready to retire. You're ready to go. Take it, run. So then fast forward, I moved, when I left Plain City High School, I got my master's and all. I finished school and such and became an assistant principal at Wharton High School. And lo and behold, the next year, the AD gets another job, and guess who's there? So timing is great. So the 3-minute doctorate kind of goes along with some of my other career steps. So I appreciate it.
So I want to go back to that day you were named the teacher. And you were going to do an internship. What was that conversation like? And what was that first day of class with Lanness Robinson like? When you were going in to be an intern, what was it like for you?
So the first thing is the day they told me, they called me into the office and said, first off, they didn't even know how to say my name. Lanness is not the most common name, right? So I did mispronounce my name and said, so we want you to teach. I went, yeah, I'm here to do my student teach. No, we want you to be the teacher. I went, wait, by myself? With those kids? Right? So that was a little shocking. And then what was day one like? I went and got my tie, I was all knotted up, ready to go, and I walked into class and went, oh crap. I am no more prepared to do this than those students sitting in the desk are.
They could have taught you.
Right. And then I get to, here's the best part, I get to third period and I have dropout. I was social studies. So I have dropout prevention social studies. There is actually a student in the class that was 10 months younger than I was and already had a child. I was getting motherly advice from one of my students for half the year.
Man.
I and you said it. You shouldn't be surprised you got a 3-minute doctorate because you stepped right into these different roles. But I want to ask you. You talked about being a JV coach, and I was assuming it's JV basketball.
Yes.
Have you ever been thrown out of a JV basketball game?
I have never been thrown out of a game my entire life.
We had a previous guest who was thrown out of a JV game, if you could imagine that.
I was not. I guess I wasn't that much of a rebel rouser because I didn't get any ejections. I only got 2 technicals the entire time, and one of them was for the book being messed up. So I wasn't that guy. I always tell the stories. When Danielle mentioned that I do a lot of the leadership training courses, and I always talk about being as an athletic director, being the leader of coaches, right? Well, what type of coach personality do you want to have? You can be successful a lot of different ways, and I use the Tampa Bay Buccaneers all the time. Tony Dungy led and was a coach a certain way, and John Gruden did the same thing when they both have a Super Bowl title, right? And so I was more the Tony Dungy type of coach. Like I didn't get all worked up. I didn't spend a lot of time with fussing with officials. I spent more time. I think it's more important to coach your kids, right? Like because you can't get the officials to do what you want. So maybe you can get the kids to do it. So that was kind of my style.
You got to be way committed if you're going to get thrown out of a JV basketball game on a Saturday morning. You got to be way committed for that.
Yeah, I got way more important things in my mind than that.
That's not part of the be better motto at all, Dustin. You can't get thrown out of the JV game with that motto. No.
No. That would be a little bit of in conflict, wouldn't you say?
That would be.
Be better getting thrown out of it.
Have you looked back on your career and you started teaching earlier than you wanted to teach, or earlier than you were supposed to start teaching? I guess you did that. You became an AD fairly quickly because the AD quit. I know during that time you've had some kind of story that has just blown your mind, or some kind of situation you've been in that may have been beyond, hey, you're coming to intern, but we're going to teach. I mean, that blows my mind still that you were in charge of that and had a kid that was 10 months younger than you. But during your time, you've had to have some kind of story that just blows your mind.
So, all right. what comes to mind when you say that is when I got to Plant City High School, so this is not my very first year in Tallahassee, is when I came down to Tampa. I left my class or whatever, and I decide to go between classes. I got to go run up to the office or something. So I literally went up to the office. I was a little kid, right? I was a 22, 23-year-old teacher. So I ran up to the office, right, and to grab something. But the bell rang. I was up there too long. The bell rang, and here I come running. I'm running down the hall, and I get, young man, stop running in the hall. and it took about 4 steps, and I went, wait, they're talking to me, right? Like, I'm a teacher trying to get to class, right? So I stopped, and I turned around, and I went and said, hello, Lanness Robinson. I'm a new social studies teacher here. To this woman named Brenda Watson. I tell that story because fast forward about 10 years, now I'm at Wharton High School. I'm the assistant principal for administration / athletic director, but I'm basically third in charge in the school now, right? She is also a teacher at the school. That same lady is a teacher at the school. So we get this report that there's something on fire in the classroom. Same young man runs down there, right? Same young man. I run down to the classroom, and when I get there, there's a student literally like trying to put paper out. She had lit the paper. You know how the kids did used to do their articles. I forget what they called it, right? Like they would have to read the articles and then write a review. It's basically they were practicing their writing, their comprehension and stuff for testing. So current events, that's what you had to do current events. So she had lit the paper on fire while it was in his hand, and I was like, Ms. Watson, that's going to be a little bit of a problem. So not a big deal. Same young man ran to her though. Next day, Mr. Gaffney, my principal, said, you got to go get Brenda Watson. She's got to go to professional standards, right? So now she's going to get in trouble. Same young man that she's fussing at 10 years later, got to go get her. So I walk in the door, or I open the door, and she said, about damn time you came back to get me. And she had her purse, and she was walking out the door. She retired that day.
Did she retire as a result of you or of the situation?
Because of the situation. Right. She was just done.
She's not here to verify, so you could really go either way.
No, and unfortunately, I went to Brenda's funeral about 5 years ago. She had some health issues, but that story, like, she literally lit the paper on fire. And she said, when you got to go, you got to go. It's time to go. And it was time to go for her.
So I want to rewind back to when you were running down the hallway. Were you tied up then? Were you knotted up then, as you said? Or was it just a more casual, so you could have been mistaken as a student?
Yeah, I definitely could be. By then, I was the head boys basketball coach, so, I took the liberty of dressing down as the boys basketball coach. I think you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, it might have been like that. So, no, I was definitely in a school T-shirt, and heck, I might even have on sweatpants or jeans or something, right? Like, but I could see where I fit in as a student, but I just thought it was pretty interesting that here I was, clearly with like ID on and all this type of stuff, but I was a kid running through the hall. I wish they confused me for kid running through the hall now. Got too much
That's not happening. But when you fast forward 10 years and you have to go back to that classroom and you walk in there, and as you mentioned, the same kid, you walk back here, or you run down there or whatever because there's a fire. You walk in. What was that conversation like? Did you have a great relationship with her? That you could have had that conversation, or she knew I'm busted now?
Oh yeah, she knew. And as a matter of fact, when I went in the second day, she was like, "Oh, everybody else was too coward to come in here, huh?"
So they sent the kid.
Right. She said, "Oh, they had to send my boy in here to come get me."
I mean, you have been thrown into the fire literally.
Literally.
literally several times. I mean,
Yep.
once coming in to become a teacher, and then all of a sudden you're running to put out a fire as the number 3 man in charge, and nobody else. Then it was that conversation of, hey, you got to go get Miss Watson.
Yep.
And it's one of those duties that other duties as assigned. Okay.
That's exactly what it was. Exactly what it was. Because I was not. Her being removed as a teacher had nothing to do with me at that point. It was just because they knew I had a relationship with her, it wouldn't be a problem.
And that didn't steer you out of administration at all.
No. Listen, I say this all the time. We're nothing more than firefighters most of the day, and then we have to find time to kind of do the rest of our work when we can.
And there is another part of the job. It's not just putting out fires. I mean, there's other things that have to be done.
Right, absolutely.
I think about, being young Lanness and walking into that thinking, all right, I'm an intern, and I'm gonna be an intern. I got a semester at least to learn from somebody else, to learn about classroom management, learn about lesson plans, learn about how to manage a classroom, learn all these things, and it's thrust upon you in a moment. And a lot of that's our world as athletic administrators. Stuff gets thrown on us, and we've just got to adjust and adapt, and we've got to just make the best out of whatever we're given. To use the old phrase, make lemonade when you're handed lemons, just make lemonade, and that's exactly what you've had to do.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to, you have to have confidence in yourself and your abilities and your decision making to be able to get through things. I mentioned every stop along the way in my career really has kind of been ahead of schedule. So just being able to make adjustments and rely on who I am as a person, I think has helped me get through some what could be very challenging situations. I was a head boys basketball coach at 23. I was an AD at 28. I was a district AD at 34. So I was a little ahead of schedule in each one of those. I wanted all of those. Didn't think I would get to them at those points, but then it was literally what's next. As soon as I got into my one position, I started thinking about what was next. I've been in this job for 16 years, though, and I recently applied and tried to become the executive director of the Florida High School Athletic Association. They selected a great guy, so I don't have any bad feelings about that. But that was a goal. That was a goal of mine to try to pursue that as well. And it was I failed in that effort, but I think even that will make me a better person here in Hillsborough County. The acronym FAIL, FAIL, first attempt and learn. I can apply it there as well. So I appreciate those questions, and it made me think back and have a memory of Brenda Watson, which I hadn't said that name in a while. But it's all about relationships to me, and building relationships throughout time, and having the ability to go into a very difficult situation with Brenda Watson, and it was not a problem. It was because of the relationship I had.
So now, do you think that? Sorry, Dustin.
No, go ahead, Daniel.
No, so do you think that that type of interaction as admin off field helped you deal with parents who maybe got a little crazy on you after hours? Do you think that kind of made that whole transition from administrator during the day to administrator at night a little easier for you?
Yeah, I think it's you set the tone for yourself and your interactions with folks, right? Like, I think it's important. You have to take care of people the best you can, and then ultimately they'll take care of you back. And if you show that you have real concern, empathy, and desire for success for all those that you come in contact with, I think they feel that and they see that. But that's not something. It's not something you can just say. It's something you have to live and do, and so that's why I try to go over and above wherever I can. But also, it kind of explains as you're doing things, right? Like, I think when people understand the why, even if they don't agree with the decision, if they understand the why, I think they can swallow it a little bit better.
Now, Lanness, have you ever been a coach and athletic director at the same time?
No, sir.
Okay. Because I was going to ask.
Well, let me say this. I've been an athletic director, and I was a little league coach for many years, if that counts. But no, not at the high school level.
The reason I was going to ask, because you talk about relationships, and we both share a friend in Daryl Nance, and Daryl has he talked about on his episode, he had a lacrosse coach quit, and then an assistant coach come in and quit the next day while he was coaching basketball, and lacrosse was about to pick up. And so I was going to steer down to that road to say, have you ever had that situation where somebody just walked in and quit? Now, clearly you had an AD who retired that you got that job. They said, hey, the guy's here, we'll just make him the AD. But have you had coaches quit on you as an athletic director that you said, how am I going to fill this spot?
Oh, yeah. Wait, let me take that a step further. I've had them quit. I've had one arrested. Right? So absolutely, where it's like, what are we going to do? In the pinch, guess who becomes the coach, right? At least temporarily for a day or two or something. I've had to do that. But yeah, I have far more experience at the district level than I did even at the school level at this point, because I've been at district level 16 years and I was at the school for 5 as an AD. So yes, did I have it happen? But was it so long ago that I may not remember all the details? Yeah, probably. But I know I had a coach. I had more than one coach quit last minute. And I definitely know I had one get arrested on a Thursday with basketball practice starting on the following Monday.
I was going to say, based on, how large your district is, do you have like a story where you're like, what was that AD or that coach thinking? Like, you just can't even wrap your brain around it?
Oh, gosh. Do I have a story? How long you got? Let's see. Recruiting rules. Right? Like, not exactly sure why a coach would think that when the 6'9" kid walked into the school that the coach thought it was okay to help them find an apartment, right? Like no matter where you are, that's illegal. No matter what state that is, that's illegal. Had a coach decide that doing push-ups on the asphalt on the track at 3:00 in the afternoon in July, doing not push-ups, I'm sorry, doing plank, was a great idea.
But wait, hold on. It's really hot here then, Dustin. So that's not good for kids.
Oh, let me say this. Middle July, 3:00 in the afternoon, asphalt tracks, probably 120 to 140 degrees. Just gotta understand that. So imagine plank as a punishment, right? Just going in plank for a punishment. Imagine what those kids' hands look like.
Oh no, those poor kids.
Yeah.
When you think about that, Lana says, what's that conversation like with that coach? I mean, obviously, it's not positive. I mean, be better could only be said so many times, but I mean.
Yeah, no, that was the he's not here for something good today.
Yeah.
When you have a little bit different pep in your step, and you just kind of blow by people like small talk I don't want to have. Where is he? Right?
Where is he?
So that conversation is not a nice conversation. There's no way to sugarcoat that. So as much as I say be better, like I'm a very direct person. I'm going to say, and oftentimes when it comes up here, it comes out of here. So that's I'm going to say it, and I will say I may use profane language in my personal life, but professionally, I have the ability to turn it on and off, right? Because I don't want that to be the reason why someone has a problem with what I said, right? So I guess I learned it when I was learned profane language when I was a kid, and you couldn't say it around your parents, so
You had that switch you could turn on and off.
So I've carried that over, right? Now there are times where in the office, maybe the language could be cleaned up. But anyway, so with the coach, that was not a fun one. Just say, listen, coach, you screwed up. It's not okay. You were wrong. This is what's going to happen. You're going to face disciplinary action. You may even be fired. Just from the beginning, right? Like, what were you thinking? Is there anything else I need to know? We're not even going to debate whether or not it was okay or not, right? Like, yeah. So that, boy, gosh, I could keep giving those. Like,
I think about just that walk out there, and I go out and visit coaches all the time, watch practice, and I'll just sit over there and just kind of have conversation, whatever. But you were on a mission. The crosshairs were in sight, and you knew exactly where you were going. And I can't imagine being those other coaches. They're like, "Hey, Lanness, glad you're out here today," and you have no time for that. You've got a mission that you're just laser focused on. Absolutely. And I can imagine being that coach. I'm sure that coach had to know that he had screwed up.
Oh, yeah.
But I can't even put myself in that person's shoes where this is a good idea. Like the ground gets so hot here during the summer in Florida that you can't get from your door to your pool fast enough without the bottom of your feet that are actively moving burning, right? So to keep your hands in one single spot for an extended period of time, I can't you have to drop your motto from be better to be humane at that point.
Right.
that was I can't even understand what could possibly be going through that coach. I would have been livid. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Livid is a good word.
I think I would have changed my motto to "Don't be dumb." No, I think I could have. There are several ways that I could have gone with that, but you think about, and maybe that's why you guys are scuba certified, because you can go down, the water gets cooler as you go down, and so maybe that's how you compensate for it being so hot. We don't have that option here. Your teeth sweat, your shin sweat. It's just physically impossible stuff happens because it gets so hot here.
Did you just say your teeth sweat?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I heard that correctly.
I thought I heard the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not possible, but that's how hot it gets, that your teeth feel like they're sweating. That just tells you.
I have a new saying. Thank you, my Arkansas brother.
Make your teeth sweat, but we got a lot of time here in Arkansas. We don't get to go scuba diving. You got to come up with some things. But I think about some of those processes and some of these decisions, and as you said, you could go on and on and on about coaches making some poor decisions. And reality is, you mentioned it at the very beginning, sometimes their brains get in the way. Sometimes without meaning to, they make some dumb decisions, and maybe they mean to. A coach getting arrested, kind of hard to argue that one. It's kind of that's something your brain kind of just either turned off or was non-existent for a little while or whatever. But you think about all the
ADs also. Let's not forget ADs.
Right.
Not just coaches.
Right. There was one at the University of Georgia that made some poor decisions, if you remember an AD there that made some poor decisions. But and I'm sure somebody in Florida would have no recollection of anybody in Georgia doing something wrong. But
Never.
I was at the collegiate level when that all happened, so I actually knew him when that went down. But you think about, sometimes you just can't. You talk about turning the switch on and off with profane language. You can do it outside, but in the office you don't do that. Sometimes they just can't flip that switch.
Right. But I think it's important to say ADs have to be mindful of that also, because you said coaches, and I had a conversation with I'm going to say a former AD this past February. I had a conversation with them, and it was just that. I was like, I walked in and said, so when this is all said and done, it's probably going to burn. And what's going to probably burn is your job. And as I mentioned, he's a former AD at this point.
Yeah, but sometimes, those tough conversations have to be had.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, with a coach that endangered a kid by making them what he thought was punishment on the asphalt was. I mean, obviously, that's a no-brainer. You don't do that stuff. But
Right.
when you go to these ads and you got to have those tough conversations, or those coaches and have those tough conversations, you don't get to pass that baton to somebody else. When you had to do it with Mrs. Watson, you had to go have that conversation.
Right.
Not the most comfortable, but we as ads, and as you take away takeaways, if you will, from these stories, one of them is you've got to have hard conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And one way you found to be very good at that is just be direct. Just pull the Band-Aid off and let the damage be done.
Tell them where it is. Tell them what you got, what you have, what you think, right? Like whatever. Like give them the information, and let's move on. Like we can spend a lot of time talking about why and what. And I think most times they want to talk about what happened. This is what it is. What it is at this point, right? Like why do we need to keep rehashing the what happened? Let's talk about what's going to happen.
So let me ask this question. You were on the NIAAA board, you're not anymore, and you had to get off there to get a doctorate. So congratulations on that. But do you have any travel issues? Like Steve Throne has travel issues because he is so large. Do you have any travel issues? Have you experienced any of that with your trips with NIAAA?
Other than a few weather delays, but Steve Throne is twice of me for sure. That is a huge human being.
That's a large man.
That is a very large man. But no, I haven't had any. Every once in a while we have some. I've had some flight cancellations and such, and weather delays. But for the most part, no. Just fortunately for me, when I have to go to most places, Southwest Airlines is a direct flight. I don't know why or how that works. So I have very few layovers, which is really good. And now that I said that, of course,
I was just gonna say you're kind of jinxing yourself right now.
Yeah, every one of my flights is gonna be a 3-leg trip now.
Yeah.
What I want to say is just in your defense. I mean, Throny has issues, and if he has to go put out a fire, he gets in a gator. You clearly run to whatever's going on. If there's a fire, you can run. Throny says he's like the gator's like a shrine car for him. He's like a shriner in there because it's so small for him.
Yeah.
You're able to run. Throny's not able to do that.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
That's a lot of man to move.
That's a lot of man to move. But you know what? I'm glad to see that he's on the board because he's got a lot of great ideas. A great leader also in his own right. And Nebraska, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in Nebraska. So glad to see him on the board.
Well, I know you've dealt with some issues. You had to lead through COVID as the president through COVID and that mess, and then trying to host the NIAAA convention, which was in Tampa, and you were responsible for all of that, and that didn't get to happen in person anyway. We did it virtually. But you've obviously led through some challenges. You've led through some difficulties, whether that be as a classroom teacher or that be as an administrator or serving the NIAAA in a capacity, whether that be on the board as the president or through Tampa trying to host that. I'm glad to see we're going back to Tampa. I was looking forward to that. And it was a great opportunity to learn virtually, and we had a great attendance for that. But it doesn't do justice when you're not in person. And in person, the ability to network, to build your network, but also to grow from other people, other experts in this field. I think that's important. I'm excited to be able to come back to Tampa in 2025.
I'm very excited that we're going to have it here in 2025. But I'm going to tell you, I'm very proud of what we did in 2020. It was the 5th largest attended conference ever, which says a lot, right? It was a lot of time commitment, however. I spent a lot of time on Zoom. I mean, a lot of, because I don't know what percentage of all the meetings I went to, but it was pretty darn high. I was close to trying to get to 80-90% of the meetings. So it was a lot of juggling of schedules. Now, obviously, we were dealing with COVID, so that was, limited some of the things we had going on. But by then, we had sports going on here in Hillsborough County. I may be at a game, but I was also on a Zoom, right?
Yeah.
So, those types of situations. No, but I'm very proud of the product that we pulled off. I don't know. I hope we never have to do that again. But the amount of professional development that the NIAAA offered from the start of the pandemic in late March is when the concepts of offering the PD all the way through that conference. I don't know of another organization that came together and pulled it together as well without losing something. I really do believe that it was not an easy transition, a smooth transition to a different platform for a temporary solution.
Well, and I imagine too, like you have goals for yourself, and to be the NIAAA president, I'm assuming that you didn't have the vision of going through a pandemic during your time as president. I bet you had very different goals and ideas of what you could do and what it would look like. And then all of a sudden, almost overnight, those were all out the window. And just like everything else we do after hours and on the field, you had to hurry up and readjust and figure it out on the fly and do something no one's done before. So that just kind of, everything from Miss Watson prepared you for that all the way up into how many years you've been a county AD. And I just think, I think it was great. I attended it virtually as well. And I was great how it kind of went through all of it was really well done. So kudos to you. But I can't imagine that you kind of had to be a little bit disappointed because what you really wanted to do, you just probably weren't capable of, and you had to focus reshift. And I think you're right with the professional development. That's the way you guys went, and it was awesome. But I can't imagine that's what you had planned going into
Definitely
that.
not what we had planned. But here, let me without going any further, I can't take any of the credit. The NIAAA staff pulled that together. I was a mouthpiece to help pull it off, but that staff pulled that together, and I thought it was awesome. I definitely don't want to take any of the credit of putting it together. But the idea of being disappointed that we weren't here in Tampa, and the idea of it was not the year that I expected, for sure. But like I said, we had 2025. We're going to make 2025 the best NIAAA conference ever. That's who I am. Like, that's my goal, right? I want it to be the most attended. I want it to be the best. I want it to be the one that everyone wants to come back to, right? Like, that's kind of what we want to pull off in 2025. But, also, as I told them throughout that year, it's like, it's okay. Like, this is it, right? Like, so what? That's not what I thought it was going to be. The way I see it is, I'm the only person that will ever be able to say they got to do it that way, right? So
hopefully, fingers crossed.
Right. Let's fingers crossed, right? Right. Like, but so it was a cool experience. I'm telling you, it was a really cool experience. I probably got to touch more people that format than I would have in person.
But I think you say you live by the motto "Be better," and you don't get to choose the situations. You get to choose your response.
That's correct.
And so be better is a motto clearly you've lived by. And that's something that, hey, we got to make the most of whatever this situation is as a pandemic. And we were playing sports just like you were. And so making that adjustment, having to do all that stuff, you were just trying to be better at the end of the day. And I think you pulled that off well.
Well, I appreciate it. And I hope those that attended, like you all, also, we got nothing but positive feedback. So I think it was, well appreciated what went down. But it was a lot of, it was, like I said, big time commitment, and really just a more of a change in thought process of what is best for this situation.
Well, what we've established with this episode is clearly that you've got a doctorate, and we can challenge Josh and Mike and tell them to be better. And maybe I'll have some kind of form for that. You've got to improve your golf game, obviously, for the next encounter, but there will be one, and we know that will happen. And at some point, your counterpart, your colleague, I guess, on your teammate in that scramble will actually be on here and can defend the honor as best he can as well. But I want to tell you, thank you for jumping on here with us, Lanness. I appreciate what you do for our organization. I appreciate how you lead. I appreciate that you live out, be better, and challenge others to be better. So thank you for jumping on here with us. I appreciate that.
Listen, been a treat. Thank you all for inviting me. And yeah, get Phil on here. Phil's a great guy. Very looking forward to his leadership of the NIAAA as we transition Dr. Blackburn into retirement and Phil as the leader. So he'll be a good guest. And he's talking about stories and sayings. He's got them.
Yeah, we thought about that.
At the board meetings, we call them Philisms.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he's got them. He's definitely got them.
Well, I want to say thank you to you as well, Lanness, for everything you do for our profession, but also for taking the time. As you know, sports are ready to go here in Florida. So thank you for taking the time to meet with us today. And
first day of practice.
Yes, today, first day. Don't touch the ground. No Florida coaches touch the ground right now. That's what you got to take away from this. And so thank you to Lanness, and thank you to Take It Spigot, who is our sponsor for all episodes. And we will be back next week.